Right. So we'll call the meeting of the Land, Water, Forest Resources Committee for October to order. Madam Clerk, did we comply with the open meetings law?
The meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Good. And may we have roll call, please?
Bruce Paulson,
Here.
Ron Buckholz,
Present.
Jesse Betcher,
Here.
Mark Helwig.
Oh. Good.
One chair.
There we go.
Okay.
Now.
Brian Bissonette. Kevin Shefton.
Yep.
We have a quorum.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Mr. Shepard. Pledge allegiance, please, before Mr. Shepard sits down. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we'll take public comments for anything that's not on the agenda. I guess I've got two public comment sheets here. Three. I have three here. Is that public comments for something that's not on the agenda, or was this public comments for the forestry presentation on how they set up sales?
Yeah, for I have a public comment for something on the
Yeah, so can you just hold those comments until then? Is that okay with everybody else? Okay. All right, then let's move on.
Mr. Paulson,
Yes.
Linda Zilmer, if I might make a public comment on items not on the agenda.
All right, yeah, please, that's the intent.
Thank you. Edgewater property owner, 902 Holly Hill Lane, Birchwood, Wisconsin. I have two requests for future agenda items. The first one is to have the committee discuss impaired waters, which are listed in the Land and Water Forest Resource Management Plan. It's been my observation, and I've heard comments from others, as well as the zoning department reporting kind of increased clearing of shoreland, usually related to development, and that is a contributor potentially to poorer water quality. And one of the concerns I heard most recently is a property that's intending to clear 40 to 45 trees from shoreland with a possibility of emerald ash borer. And so I think a lot of these cuts along shorelands happen after the fact. And so can there be a discussion of whether zoning or the DNR can get involved beforehand to determine whether this shoreline clearing should be done for forest, tree health reasons or not? And then the second agenda item for the future I would like to see is a report from the DNR Conservation Warden about what they're seeing for both on water and on land issues. I'm hearing here that there are a lot, but it would also include the impact of recreation in county and public forests with the spread of invasives on land, just as the committee is now addressing decontamination for water bodies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have public comments for items not on the agenda? Okay, if not, we'll move to approval. Oh, there a public comment? Brian's on.
Brian.
Perfect. Okay, good. Brian, welcome.
Thank you. Apologize for being late.
It's all right. You're here. Approval of the September minutes. I entertain a motion to approve those.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second to approving the minutes?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, events. Is that you?
Yep. So we have the Berkeley Tour, January 15th of 2022. Sealy Hills Classic, January 29th. The Burke Viner event, February 23rd through the 27th. And then the Fat Bike Berkey, March 12th. Those are all Berkey events. We are going to take that last one, the Epic Mountain Bike Race off of the agenda for this month. We're having some conflict of scheduling, so we're gonna bring that back next month after getting that all figured out.
Perfect. And do we have insurance, certificate of insurance for all of these?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I'd accept the motion to approve items 7A through D.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Chairman. Is there a second to the motion to approve the events?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the events set, item 7A through D. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. And we have the treasurer's report. Thanks. See you late. See you next month.
We had a total of 46 parcels on our land sale that we accepted bids through October 6th on. We've got a successful bid listing there. We had 30 total bids that we received. 18 parcels will be sold when approved. 5 parcels had more than one bid. Away from our total. And 7 plus were adjacent property owners, so I think it was a very successful sale.
Okay, good.
I have a question.
Yes.
On this bid summary of the land sale on number 44, Donald and Linda Kinsley did not meet the minimum bid requirements. That's their own land, right?
Not necessarily.
No?
They're adjacent. Kinsley land is around it, but there is a minimum bid requirement that we have on our land sales. The bids are reduced annually. They have an option of bidding again in the future.
Okay, because it just says about 28 Kinsley's addition to the village. That's why I asked. Okay, thanks.
I need a recommendation of approval, and then this has to go to the full county board next year.
Mayor, I'll make that motion to approve these and send it on to the county board.
Okay, we're approving the bid summary, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right. We have a motion made and seconded to approve the bid summary and pass it on to the county board for final approval. Any more discussion? Favor aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep the money coming in. We need it. All right. Land records and the county surveyor's report.
Yeah, not much to report. Property listings going okay. GIS people have been working on addressing and the redistricting maps and updating our parcel maps. Survey crew, we had a project that we've been working on all summer where we've got GPS control monuments around the county that are kind of like our infrastructure for locating everything. And the state project and the federal project, they're gonna do a readjustment to all that stuff in 2023. So we've been working with them. Chris pretty much working by himself because we're short of staff, has got over 100 of those done this year, cut brush around them and remeasured them for 6 hours and stuff. So that's good. That's pretty much done. And then we've been working a little bit in Draper and Winter on corner recovery things and got some trying to contract out for some surveying, and everybody's so busy we can't hardly get anybody to bid on our work. So we're going along.
Okay. Any questions, land records and surveyor? Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the county forest report. Greg could not make it today, but he sent David. I worked with him a lot. He's pretty competent guy, very competent guy. You're not.
I'm here for the DNR report.
You are.
Yeah.
All right, where is you're gonna have a surveyor guy? No, I'm sorry, the DNR. You have DNR, but the forestry? Okay. All right, so
He has a report.
yeah, so why don't we, if you have any questions on the DNR report? Excuse me, there's the forestry report. All right. Looks like.
Do you want to hear the trail?
Yeah, I do. Okay, Mr. Marote.
Trying to skip over me, are you there, Bruce?
I was trying.
Not so lucky. Anyway, as I've always been reporting here, it's been extremely busy out there. this fall with the fall colors and everything. A lot of people been coming up to the area. It's been great. Next week, we have a NORTEC meeting, be down in Birchwood at the Birchwood Clubhouse. And then we'll actually be going for an ATV ride down to Russ County to check out their trails with NORTEC.
Okay.
End of the month here, the State Snowmobile Association's meeting down in Wisconsin Dells. We'll have some workshops on different things for the snowmobile clubs to look at. One of the things is, of course, the GPS systems in the computer and in all the groomers that's going to be required this year. And then some stats I gave at the Monday's economic development meeting. Snowmobiling has not changed much in the last 50 years other than improvements in the snowmobiles themselves. Riders want good snow conditions, smooth trails, and places to stop for food, gas, and lodging. On the other hand, the ATV demographics has changed drastically over the last few years. We started off with the 3-wheelers, then we went to the 4-wheelers, and now as everybody sees, we have the side-by-sides, which a lot of them are bigger than some cars out there. There's a need for more miles of summer trails and winter ATV, UTV trails. And the demand to connect to more businesses. Same with snowmobiles, people want to get to food, gas, and lodging. Recently, there has been a greater demand for more ATV roads that are legally open for ATVs. The trend shows that some of the riders are not even going trail riding. They're actually just going for Sunday rides or going down to their neighbor's house. So they just want to go road riding and that. Also, the big thing is a lot of people want to go from their residence to the nearest trail system. So they got to go down the roads in order to do that. So more and more roads are being opened up. Some numbers to consider in Wisconsin here, there's 250,000 registered snowmobiles. ATVs and UTVs, there's 452 registered ATVs and UTVs. For trails, summer trails, there's 2,000 miles of summer ATV trails, 4,000 miles of winter ATV trails. Snowmobile trails, there's 25,000 miles. So if you take a look at the comparison, like 2,000 miles of ATV and 25,000 miles, that's why we have a bigger demand for the road routes. There's over 42,000 miles listed right now that we know of roads that are open in Wisconsin for ATVs. Question was asked about, why we're opening up more road to the businesses and such. Biggest thing, like in Sawyer County, we have great trail systems. So Sealy Hills up there is fantastic up there for summer. Both silent sports, we get the Berkey Trail, Canva Trails up there. ATVs, snowmobiles, it's great. But a lot of our other portions of the county are surrounded by lakes and wetlands. So you can't get there by trail system. You have to use different roads. And that's why we're looking at opening up more roads for this to connect to the businesses. So
That's it.
that's it, unless you have any questions.
I do.
Yes, sir.
Town roads,
Yes, sir.
me being as a town chairman, we open up our roads to ATVs. We have a lot of these people out there that do not respect them roads.
Correct.
It's pretty soon, some of these towns, it's getting kind of costly when they got to send somebody out there to repair that. They're going to shut them back down. I don't know there should be something that could be done about that. I've called the sheriff's department, I've called the DNR. They have come out and caught people on our roads, and I'm happy about that. But there's other townships that they're not getting caught.
Correct. There's a lot of frustration out there with it.
Right. And they put in some deep gouges in them roads. And it's just makes you so mad that you want to just shut your roads down. So,
And I understand that. And our problem is, and you could talk to the sheriff about it, we're having problems throughout everything. There's a lack of respect in any kind of activity. The drivers on the highways, ATVs, everybody's got a lack of respect for other people's property and things here. So I don't have an answer for you on that.
yeah, I figured I just wanted to mention
Yep.
it, that, that we see this in all the townships, and we opened our roads up to these so they could get from point A to point B. And it's just some of them, and I've noticed that a lot of it is not the locals. It's the people that come up from farther out that are doing this, that are getting caught.
In the last 2 years, there's been a huge increase in the number of snowmobiles and ATVs bought by people that have never been out there before. You know, outdoor recreation because of the COVID situation has grown tremendously. Along with that is they're not reading their information, DNR information books, you know, on what to do. They've never been on them before, and so they're just doing whatever they want. So I don't know what to do with it. I know on the national level, we're talking about it on the snowmobiling. Trespassing is the biggest complaint we're getting on snowmobiling, where people are going off trail and going riding. How we can curb it, I don't know. So we do realize it's a big problem. We do realize that trespassing and roads, you know, the damage there, but I don't have an answer for you.
Thanks, Doc.
How many townships in the county currently allow ATVs, UTVs on roads? You know?
All of them do. It's to what extent they do. We have several townships that have opened up all the roads for ATV use, and then we have some that are just limited on use on them.
So the limited use is just to get from one trail to another, basically?
Well, they've opened up specific roads. They've listed the roads that are open. Some of them are roads are what I consider are connector trails and such like that. Some of them are just residential. City of Hayward right now is discussing opening up all the city streets for ATVs, so they connect. The residents can connect. And the big thing is, like in the city, we've got major streets that are open for ATV use. You can come up Main Street, you can come up B&27 and get into town. You can connect to the majority of the businesses. But the downfall on that is the people that actually live here can't legally drive from their house. They have to trailer out to the trail systems because their side streets are not open. And that's what the city's looking at doing, is opening up those side streets, all the city streets, so that the residents can connect up. Snowmobilers have a snowmobile access law that allows them to ride from their residence or place of lodging to the nearest trail. ATVs, we don't have that.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. We have a hand raised.
We have, by Mr. Bissonnette and then two of the public.
Okay, so why don't we go to Brian? Brian, you have some comments?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Ron was saying, I've had recent discussions with Tribal Governing Board, and the town of Bass Lake and the town of Hayward have opened up some of the roads within our communities. And I'll use Gurnall Lake as a good example. Now, they opened because that road is kind of split between the two townships, and that's all tribal there. And so the problem is that what was once a pretty peaceful community is now disrupted with constant ATV trails. So in all likelihood, they're gonna get a letter from the tribe, basically saying, we want this road closed to ATV trails. Now, because there is other options. I mean, they could actually use the trail. They don't necessarily need to use Gurnall Lake Road. So I just want to let Don know that in all likelihood that we're gonna, and then I've already requested that whenever the town of Hayward is gonna approve anything on reservation, to notify our office first so we can have some input on it.
All right, anything else, Brian?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, so why don't we go to Ron next then?
Thanks. This is Ron Burgeon. I'm the former executive director for CAMBA, Chequamegon Area Mountain Bike Association, recently retired, but I have stayed on as the trails coordinator for the organization. So I'd like to give you an update on some of the mountain bike activity for the past season.
Okay.
We just had our final trail committee meeting last night where we reviewed a lot of the accomplishments of the year. But in general, as far as trail riding, much like last year, we've had a very good year, lots of activity throughout the system. Weather's been favorable. The trails have stayed in good shape without a lot of rain issues or down trees or other matters. This is a year where Canva did not build a lot of new trail and anything extensive. We have kind of shifted for the moment, our emphasis to enhancing our maintenance and going back to some of the oldest trails in the system, some that are maybe close to 20 years old, and doing a lot of rehab work. And this has proven to be a good strategy. We're really engaging our ridership. They see this work, they're very appreciative. It feels to them like we have built a new trail in many cases. So that's a real positive thing. This is something that we intend to continue in the years going forward. Regardless of how well a trail is built and in any kind of activity, trails do experience wear and tear just from regular day-to-day use. So over time, it's necessary to go back and spruce up the trails, and it makes a big difference. We have three primary concerns. One, that the trail continue to be sustainable, that it continues to be safe, and that it continues to provide a fun, positive trail experience. So that's why we're doing all that. Very quickly, some of the work and things that we've done throughout the year on all of our trails in Sawyer County, we've cleared down trees. We've mowed the margins of the trails where it's necessary, cut back brush, and in the early season, try to blow leaves off the trails, which is a formidable task, given all the miles we have. But it makes a difference in getting the trails ready for the season, and they dry out quicker and are in better shape to start the season. In the Hayward area, we did a lot of work at the Hatchery Creek Bike Park, tuned up that area significantly on all the trail and skills features aspects. Further north, we've also been involved on the Hatchery Creek Trail with two significant rehab efforts that aren't quite finished. We'll finish those up next season. Further north, near the high point along the Berkey Trail, we have a trail called Flow Mama that's undergone significant rehab. We're still a little more to do there, and that's one of our more contemporary trails. It's machine built, a little wider, faster riding, flowing trail, very popular. And also in the Sealy area, we built in a couple new reroutes to avoid two-way traffic in two instances, and also to avoid some steep hills that were not the best place to locate the trail in the first place. So continuing rehab work up there, and then also getting ready for winter for our snow bike season by brushing and mowing the trails that are used during the winter. So that's highlights of what we've done in Sawyer County. We also purchased a new mini excavator to build our trails with and do our trail work with, and that was a big step. It's an expensive machine. We've had one for a number of years. It finally lived out its life. So again, a good positive year. We're making our work plan for next year that will continue a lot of this kind of work. And we're looking forward to another good season and continuing positive experiences for everyone. Thanks.
Good. Thank you, Ron. Any questions on non-motorized trails? Okay, I guess Linda has her hand up. Ms. Zillmer?
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. Just wanted to report from the town of Edgewater perspective what's been going on. The problems with ATVs, UTVs has been on the town board agenda for several months. At this month's meeting, which was last night, Edgewater is a town that opened up all town roads. They are reconsidering that. Our local and county conservation wardens have been very busy with problems on traffic on county roads that are not road routes, and State Highway 48, which goes through Sawyer, Washburn, and Barron County. At this point, the town chairman reported last night that business owners are asking him to not support opening up any more county roads, which there are certain pressures to open up Double D and County F. The town has indicated that with all the problems and the club's not knowing what to do, that they are not going to support opening up more county roads, and something needs to be done about the traffic on state highways. So the problems have been escalating. It takes up a lot of law enforcement time when there are higher, more pressing issues, and the impact is only going to become greater as a Rice Lake-based business has recently bought 3 parcels of land in the village of Birchwood, and most likely will both be selling and renting machines. So the pressure is going to be more, and there's more problems. So please get that to the right committee, but that's where Edgewater is with their situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments on the recreational trails, motorized or non-motorized? Okay. Are you going to do the nursery and forest? Okay. All right. Why don't you do them both?
I can start with the nursery, I guess, Roy. So
Would you state your name?
My name is David Totis with the
Okay.
Wisconsin DNR.
All right. Thank you.
Filling in for Roy Zubrod on annual leave. As far as the nursery is concerned, he did have questions on, was there something that the committee was interested in, or why was it put on the agenda? Because there wasn't any previous mention, he said, so.
I think it was brought up in the last meeting, asking it for just an update.
Just want an update?
Yeah, just an update.
Sure, I can give you an update. So I spoke with Joe Vandehay. He is the Natural Resource Program Supervisor for our nurseries, Hayward, Wilson, and Boscoville. And he just gave me a brief update. So the Hayward nursery is in the process, well, they're in the process of developing a 2-year business plan. And so currently the Hayward nursery serves as a seedling distribution center, as well as that's where the seed extraction facility is. And so that's where that's performed right now. The business plan for the future is to continue with distribution. So when I mean distribution is right now, everything's kind of grown down in Boscoville, and it's used as a distribution center for the Northwest area through the tree orders. They'll get shipped up here, put in coolers, and then picked up by public entities or private individuals for planting. So they'll continue with that. They have plans to upgrade the seed extractor. And largely, the business plan in the future is to shift Hayward Nursery towards a tree improvement center. So statewide, we have seed orchards scattered about on various, mostly DNR public lands, where we grow and test genetically superior trees. And so we collect that seed for seed, eventually for seed extraction and planting. So what he said is these areas are going to be consolidated, and that's going to be Hayward's role, is to be more of a seed orchard setting where they grow genetically superior seeds for the area. He did state that the business plan isn't, it's being developed, it's not approved. So that's what the future looks like for the Hayward Nursery.
Any questions about the nursery part?
How many different species of trees are you talking?
Yeah, I kind of thought that was going to come up, but certain tree species grow better in certain parts of the state, so that's kind of an issue. Certain tree species don't grow here. Black walnut grows down south. Most of the hickories grow down south. I would imagine that they'll still be developing those trees down there, but up here primarily, I would imagine it's going to it's gonna be the conifers, it's gonna be jack pine, red pine, spruces. Maybe, northern red oak. On that such order. I would suspect maybe a dozen.
Okay, any more questions on the nursery part? Okay, do you want to just launch into the rest of it?
I'll launch into the rest of it. Roy typed up a nice document and a summary for me to go through. I apologize if I'm just reading from it, but we'll start off with the certification audit of 2021. And as I go through these points of interest, feel free to ask questions at that time. Some of this can be a little bit. So the following information for the certification audit was gathered at the WCFA meeting held in Hayward this previous month, September the 22nd and 23rd. The WCFA is the Wisconsin County Forestry Association. This year's audit was held in Eau Claire, Clark, Chippewa, and Polk counties. And as we move forward, a note, the final report has not been released as of the writing of this, which was October 4th. And everything to mention is just preliminary. So to start, SFI, the Sustainable Forestry, well, Sawyer County, I believe, is duly certified SFI on FSC. So SFI's findings, Sustainable Forestry Initiative found no CARs, corrective actions, with one opportunity for improvement. The opportunity for improvement dealt with EMP monitoring, best management practices, stating that the DNR did not post results of the 5-year BMP monitoring for 2.5 years after the studies were completed. As such, answer to that opportunity for improvement in the future, the DNR will release its final report within 1 year of the findings being completed. So that was the only thing SFI was concerned with. Any questions? Moving along to FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council, seems to be a little more in depth. They found 3 minor CARs, corrective actions, and 2 observations, I believe OBS stands for. It looks like they're targeting pesticide use. So they stated a minor CAR for new pesticide policy / ESRA. ESRA is an environmental social risk assessment done on every and any pesticide application with a specific chemical. The claim was made that Clark County did not have one for a specific application and Eau Claire County did not have any. Clark County did have an ESRA. Eau Claire County did not spray in 2021, therefore no ESRA needed. Answer: they will accept the corrective action and point out mistakes the audit team made. In the future, accept subcommittee recommendations on environmental social risk assessments for FSC counties. This is a work in progress. Minor CAR training and implementation of ESRA's. WCFA's answers: we will handle the training for county forest members, and individual counties will handle the training for their own employees. Minor CAR annual reporting of pesticides. This was specific to the application of Cellutreat. The answer is the county will commit to reporting any pesticide herbicide applications. Observation, BMP monitoring, same as the opportunity for improvement from FSI or SFI, same answer as above. Observation, HCVFs. HCVFs are high conservation value forests. It was found that this has to do with a future standard not yet completed or approved. Answer: the WCFA wants this observation removed. Counties were cited for something not yet implemented. So that's what I have on certification. Any questions?
Any questions on that? Okay.
Okay. It looks like next year audit will be in Forest, Florence, Marinette, and O'Connell counties. It's scheduled for the week of August 1st through the 5th. To my knowledge, Sawyer County Forestry Department don't believe has used cellular treat, but they do use Garlon, and Garlon is used for the treatment of old wood. So sounds like, you know, with certification, any treatment area needs to have an ESRA, kind of an impact or risk assessment done prior to, you know, the application of treating any of these old field sites. I spoke with Kyle. Kyle's your pesticide applicator, Kyle Cummings. He's been treating about 5 or 6 sites a year on the county forest. Just sounds like just a little bit more tracking to satisfy the certifications. Next up, the Sawyer County, Wisconsin DNR annual partnership meeting that was held on Wednesday, September 29th at the Samuel C. Johnson Family Outdoor Center on Highway 00. I was there, great facility. There's 14 attendees. We discussed Log and Load Kids event, issues and developments pertaining to this Tuscobee State Trail, wildlife management, forest health, this 2021 forest certification audit was discussed, forest management and other items requiring attention. Minutes to be submitted to the Land and Water and Forestry Committee along with the Forest Administrator grant in the future. Currently, there's a scarification project going on. It's a 54-acre oak site prep site on the Phipps Fire Lane where we use, and I'm one of the individuals. We have 2 of the DNR fire dozers that are outfitted right now to perform that work for you, and it should be completed in the next 2 weeks to prep that site prior to harvest. Cutting notice approvals as of this writing, which was October 4th. Roy had approved 19 cutting notices totaling 1,575 acres for an appraised value of $614,908 for the upcoming fall 2021 timber sale bid opening.
Good. Thank you. Any questions on the DNR report? Okay. Thank you. On the agenda, we were going to discuss the timber sale process and the carbon tax update. I guess in Greg's absence, I don't think we have anybody from forestry to discuss that. And for those who are here to hear or make comments on those 2 issues, I apologize. I was assuming somebody would be here in Greg's stead. I guess, Tom, you probably can't comment much about Greg. Just was a sudden issue with Greg, if I understood.
Yes.
Okay. And you know, so I apologize for that. I guess as an aside, my internet is out. So I went to the library yesterday, and that's when I first found out that Greg wasn't going to be at this meeting. But so we can, yes, ma'am.
I would still like to speak, please.
Oh, please. No problems at all. Go ahead. You state your name, please.
My name is Barbara Bryant, and I live at 13046 West Old 00 in Road in Glenwood Township. And I'm here to speak about the logging procedures on the Sealy ski trails. I want to make it clear that I'm not opposed to logging. I support the responsible logging, and the logging that's been done so far with Sealy trails has not been responsible. It was clear from the committee members' questions and comments that there was some confusion and misunderstanding about buffers, trails, and the procedures in place. One person assumed that all the trails had a 150-foot buffer when logging. Another was not aware that the Berkey Trail does have a special policy regarding logging and buffers. I asked Mr. Peterson for and received copies of the policies 520, the aesthetic forest management, and 91519, the aesthetic policy for the American Birkebeiner Trail. From policy 520, I quote, "The purpose of aesthetic management is to minimize negative aesthetic impacts on timber harvesting," unquote. And quote, "The goal of the County Forestry Committee will be to protect and or enhance the aesthetic value of this unique natural resources within reason," unquote. The policy goes on to describe Class A zones and list specific areas that are considered part of this category. I am requesting that the Sealy trails are treated in a similar manner to the Berkey Trail with a 150-foot buffer when logging. And I am aware that the policy for the Berkey is not a no-cut buffer, but it is quite restrictive. I am requesting that this committee put on the next committee agenda as an action item to then be forwarded to the county board. The Sealy ski trails are used by hundreds of people, residents, and visitors. Bikers year-round, hikers, skiers, snowshoes, dog walkers, etc. The Sealy trails are established and have clear signage for skiers and bikers, including separate signage by Canva. The Sealy Lions built a wonderful warming house for visitors and residents to use to encourage and welcome the use of trails. A 150-foot buffer easily meets the guidelines and spirit outlined in the county's Policy 520 Aesthetic Forest Management. A buffer would ensure the integrity of the trails would remain intact and the experience of being in the forest would not be destroyed, and they wouldn't look as awful as that one section does now. The county is still able to raise money from logging, and many users of the trail would still have a positive, enjoyable experience, a win for everyone. I encourage each of you to walk the trails and see what they look like in the areas that have been logged without a buffer and the unlogged areas. I have some photographs here for you that I wanted to share. These are pictures that have been taken of the Sealy trails in the last 2 weeks. On one side, you'll see pictures of the portion of the trails that haven't been logged and the portion that has been logged. Just a minute, I'm gonna pass these out to the team members. Mr. Paulson has a whole bunch of others for everybody. On one side, you'll see the pictures of what aesthetic trails look like and what aesthetic trails do not look like. On the other side, you're going to see some examples of the signs put up by the Canva and Sealy trails. There's also a picture of Sealy's Lions warming house. And these all indicate that these trails receive a lot of use by residents and visitors. To summarize, I am requesting that the Sealy trails are treated in a similar manner to the Berkey Trail with a 150-foot log buffer when logging. I am requesting that this committee put this on the next committee agenda as an action item to then be forwarded to the county board. Thank you for your time and your service to local government.
Thank you. So we should run this by Greg, and our intent would be to discuss it in more detail at the next committee meeting. Any other public comments on this issue or any other issue? Okay. I don't have any reasons for Montgomery.
Yeah, I'll withdraw the comment. There's no item B.
Okay. And Tim, is Tim here? Okay.
You may let him speak for himself.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Tim, go ahead, please. Can we get him?
He's done out of it himself. I requested him to do that.
Sorry, am I?
Yeah, you're on now. Go ahead, please, with your comments. Name first, please.
Can't hear you now.
Well, why don't we go on and Tim, we'll go back to Tim if we can get communications with him. All right, zoning and conservation department.
Yeah, for the conservation department update September through October, still doing continuous dam operations and maintenance. We are getting closer to finalizing the plans for the Upper Bruni River Dam replacement. We should hopefully have those plans available for potential approval in November. I did hear that our engineer, or lead engineer on the project, was going through some health issues, so they're not available by November. Hopefully they'd be available by December. We have hired a new replacement conservation technician position. That individual's name is Natalie Erler. So if you want to stop down the conservation department and introduce yourself, you're more than welcome to. She's a very welcomed addition to our combined conservation and zoning department. Still very busy with violations and chipping away at those when time allows. We definitely have seen an increase in these potential violations over the last couple of years. And a majority of those will be receiving some form of citation. Staff also attended some soil pit training. We worked with a DADCAP engineer, completed the annual dam inspections, attended a Trout Unlimited culvert training, which was hosted here in Hayward, numerous site visits, and attended the NAC Field Day erosion control training that is at the Excelsior Lab in Rice Lake, and it's just a great program to go to and see the new products that are out there for sedimentation control and erosion control. We'll also be starting the 2022 poster and speaking contest. Our conservation department hosts that for local school groups that want to speak on a specific conservation topic, as well as create a poster, which we've also had first place winners in our county in the past. So that's my conservation report update. I'll take any questions if anyone has anything on those topics.
On the Bruni Dam, we have a request for a coffer, or
we do have a request for coffer. There are still, so where it sits right now is on DNR approval for the requested drawdown amount, and I don't believe that's been finalized at this point. Our engineer had requested that we would have to do roughly an 11-foot drawdown of that system in order to replace the dam. It ultimately is on DNR of whether or not they'll allow that, specifically as the DNR fisheries biologist, that with an 11-foot requested drawdown, if you would have significant decrease in fish population. The max depth as shown on a lot of those water charts is only around 12-13 feet of max depth of water. So you're going to have some areas where you're only going to have maybe a 2-3 foot pool, which at that point there could be a significant kill off from fish. So there is some discussions on whether or not could we do a 6-foot drawdown with a smaller coffer dam or do a larger coffer dam, and I mean all those have those tough decisions. Do we spend more money to keep the water higher, which has a better chance for fish to survive? Do we draw the water completely down, thus killing all off the fish, but then doing a restocking effort to bring fish back in there? Or do we meet somewhere in the middle? And those conversations are still occurring with DNR at this point to really see what they'll allow. And that's where it sits. Once we get the DNR approval, then it'll be up to this committee and hearing from those other residents as to, well, what plan do we want to go forward with. But if DNR doesn't allow us to do an 11-foot drawdown, the point's moved on this committee to say, yay, we still want to do that, or nay, we don't.
all right. Is it, could you just have Natalie come up and introduce herself next?
Sure.
time? Okay,
Will do.
perfect. Any more questions on the Conservation Department update and report?
Yeah, AJ, you mentioned all those violations and potential violations. What, like, can you be more specific? What are they, where are you seeing those
The
at?
majority of what we're seeing is either shoreline clearing and clearing of more trees and vegetation that current NR 115 zoning standards would allow, or doing near water earth disturbance. And our ordinances currently require that no earth disturbance, filling, excavating, grading is to occur within 35 feet of the water. And we're seeing a lot of that this year. A lot of these, I guess, vacant lots on smaller bodies of water are now getting bought up. People, whether they're trying to build a cabin on them or trying to bring in a camper, they're clearing the lot. They're clearing the lots all the way down to the water. And whether it's an educational outreach issue or whether it's people saying, well, we don't care, we'll pay with it after the fact, we'll do what you want, but we still want our view. We see both sides of the fence there. Those that are just not educated, those that do know the rules but still don't care, and they'll face consequences.
Okay,
Those are the main ones that we're seeing.
thanks.
Is it, I mean, confidentiality wise, can we have a more detailed report about this issue at the next meeting? And
Yeah, I do have a stack of about 5 of them right now that I'm getting everything T's crossed, I's dotted to proceed with the actual citation on those. Once those are submitted to the clerk of courts, yeah, I could certainly bring those files. I don't believe there'd be anything about confidentiality behind that because it's part of open records. at that point.
Public records, okay. Yeah, I think personally, let the rest of the committee weigh in. It would be nice to, I mean, it's important to hear what the issues are and what the corrective action, possible corrective action is.
And maybe a copy of NR 115, just so we're aware, and maybe that can be reviewed as well. And maybe it's too, maybe it's too restrictive. I don't know. Okay, everybody okay with that for next meeting? Okay, any more questions on the Conservation Department? Okay. We can move on.
Moving on, we have decontamination ordinance. We've discussed this over the last, oh boy, it's been probably a year and a half now almost that we've kind of tried to get this together. This isn't the first time that we've brought this potential decontamination ordinance to this committee, but here in front of you, we now have a legal reviewed by our legal counsel, Rebecca Roker, as a draft version of the decontamination ordinance. Again, this ordinance is really to serve as kind of a regulatory document that if and when a decontamination station is available, that people are using that on those individual bodies of water to properly decontaminate their vessel, their boat. And the main reason is to stop the spread of aquatic invasive species. Aquatic invasive species, if you look at any of the maps that are out there, they're creeping this way, whether they're coming up from the south or whether they're coming from the west. More and more are moving through this area. You can see the swath coming right out of Minneapolis or right out of Minnesota, and it's heading this way. So this is trying to be a little bit more proactive in getting these decontamination stations out into the county and having individuals use those so that we don't have zebra mussels coming into our bodies of water here, more of the spiny water flea, trying to prevent Eurasian milfoil, which is at this point somewhat of a losing battle, but any little steps that we can do to prevent further spread, I think is a good thing. I have talked to law enforcement, specifically the Sawyer County Sheriff, as well as the Sawyer County recreational officers. They will kind of be the main point contact in observing and addressing the initial violation of someone not using a decontamination station, and then conservation will follow up with the citations as well as it goes through the different steps of part of the citation amounts, but will be the follow-up contact from that. So it's combined departments working together for a common goal on this ordinance. I do have Jane Getting here, who's also been a great asset to have in adoption of this ordinance, and she basically did most of the work in drafting this, and we kind of did the polishing touches at the end. It should also be noted that as part of Whitefish Lakes Association, they did proceed with getting grant funding from the DNR, that this entire adoption process of this ordinance is fee funded through that grant. So time spent for my position of getting this documentation together, all the public hearing information, the legal counsel review on this, all will be coming back to the county. At this point, again, we have a draft version. We would be looking for discussion with potential action to send this out to towns for approval. Now, speaking with Rebecca, our legal counsel, we don't necessarily need the 50% town approval in order to adopt this ordinance. But with prior working events through the county, we still want to share this document with the towns to see if they have any additional comments. So that's what I'm looking for today, is to send this out to the towns, and then also to hold a public hearing on the ordinance adoption for November.
Okay, that public hearing would be at this prior to the, I guess, official meeting of this committee.
It would, yep. This is specifically a conservation ordinance and not a zoning ordinance. I can still bring it to zoning committee for discussion, but ultimately it would be on the Land, Water, Forest Resource Committee for holding the public hearing and ultimately making that official recommendation to the county board.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Paulson, I don't think it needs to come to zoning. I mean, it can go right right through land and water.
Okay.
But Jay, I just have a problem with, you said it does, well, Rebecca said it doesn't matter, you don't need the 50% of the town's approval to carry on, then why are we sending it to the towns?
As a standing of good faith, and that you don't want to blindside the towns. Also, if we hold this as an official public hearing, which we would have to, I would want to have other towns know that this is coming down and not all of a sudden thrown at them after the adoption is finalized. Oh, wait, the county did what as far as, adopting this ordinance? We were never notified. So that's why I wanted to at least get it out to the towns.
It's good to be valid.
So, Mr. Fulton, I'll make a motion to approve this ordinance to send it on to the towns.
Okay. Is there a second to that? I'll second it if nobody else will.
I'll second it.
All right, thank you, Brian.
Mhm.
Okay, any discussion? Justin, did you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking through this. I mean, a couple things jump out as might need a little bit more work, but one question I have is whose responsibility would it be to, provide the decontamination stations? Would that be the townships or DNR does that, or who?
So as part of the grant, I do believe Whitefish Lake as well as Sand Lake is getting decontamination sites paid for to put them in through that grant. So DNR is providing money to get the station.
So that's the lake association then that is applying for that grant, and they're the ones who are going to maintain that decontamination station and stuff like that. So it's not up to the individual towns to do it. It's up to whatever lake association wants to go through the effort of applying for the grant or paying for it themselves and then replacing it, maintaining it, and stuff like that. So, I mean, we have, 250 named lakes in the county. So how many of these lakes eventually will have these? You're talking maybe a handful, it sounds like, of specific lakes that have a lake association that are proactive enough to implement this. So it's not going to be at every lake in the county.
Correct. It's somewhat of a chicken and an egg in that the DNR will not fund a decontamination station unless there's a decontamination ordinance in place.
Yeah.
Towns certain.
Go ahead, please. State your name.
Jane Getty, Whitefish Lake Property Owners Association, who helped write the grant and the ordinance. Towns can certainly purchase them if they want. There's commercial ones for sale everywhere. Lake associations might purchase them and not even get a grant. They might just purchase it, see the value of it. But it's not mandatory. No lake, it's not mandatory that they have to have one. It's just that if one is there,
then you have to use
going
it.
to the trouble to put it in, then you have to use it entering the ice name.
And then, so that's where I get into another question. It says in the whereas this ordinance mandates all watercraft and trailers use a decontamination station. But then you go down further and it says all equipment, including like your fishing line. So you're basically going to mandate that someone spray 140-degree high pressure water on their fishing line or a bleach water solution on their expensive fishing equipment. So I don't know if that's realistic.
It does no harm. The bleach solution does no harm to any of the equipment.
What about trapping equipment? So if you would spray bleach solution on your trapping equipment that has a definite smell, that could be detrimental to the trapper.
It's possible it evaporates in 10 to 15 seconds, the bleach solution. So the bleach then is no longer there. It evaporates. I'm not a trapper.
I am, ma'am. So I just don't know, where it says if it's just boats and trailers or if it's every piece of equipment, my life jacket, my bobbers, everything else is, I'm going to spray with bleach. So.
And I don't think anyone's anticipating that you're spraying down your fishing line and stuff with the bleach solution, but at least pulling off weeds that you may have stuck on an individual bait still, and especially for those that for other equipment, like if you were to be, hunting waterfowl and decoys. And that's one of the bigger spreads of aquatic invasive species is that, duck hunters in general don't take the time to remove aquatic invasive species off their anchor lines on their decoys, and those that get transferred to another body of water. That's one of the larger amounts because that's where most of the weeds would stick to, are those anchors. As far as fishing line, no, but an anchor rope, if someone had a bunch of weeds wrapped around their anchor line, that would be something that you'd want to decontaminate.
That it? Any more questions, comments? Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this draft and send it on to the county board. Excuse me, towns, in anticipation of a public hearing next month. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so moving on for wildlife damage, I do see Seth Sessiger on here as well. I'll kind of tee it up for him. But the first one, we have all these 3 items to require some form of discussion action. The first is the wildlife damage abutment and claims program. This is setting the deadline for those individuals to apply for wildlife damage. It looks like Seth has requested in here that December 20th of 2021 be the last day for wildlife crop damage assessments that could be requested for the 2021 cropping year. If you have any individual questions on that, I'm sure Seth can help answer those, but that date was set as that is the last day of fall.
What do we have for last year or last time?
I believe it's always been the last day of fall in Sumner County.
Okay. All right, so do you want to?
I take these individually one at a time.
Okay. All right, so you're looking for approval of the wildlife damage abatement claims program and setting the December 21st date.
December 20th date, yep.
Yep. Okay, 20th, sorry. All right. I'd entertain a motion to approve the December 20th date for the abatement claims program.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Motion's been made and seconded to choose December 20th of 2021 as the last day for the wildlife crop damage. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay, Jay. Next.
Yeah, so the second one is 2 pages. One is the crop price proposals, and the other one is kind of a spreadsheet showing of what other prices in the area are going for. This one I'm going to tee it up and let Seth handle any questions that it would have there. Mike, I think we went through. Yep, there you
go. I'll ask the farmer and on the committee, are these prices reasonable?
I know we set the price for the county. That was for the crop insurance part of it, but those are a little low for what we set. I can't tell you the exact amount, but that's confidential. But that is a little bit low, but
Okay.
what we set for price.
All right, so is Seth on the line? Can he?
Yeah, I am on the line. I believe page 24 shows the sources that I generated these prices from. And the way I did this is I took a running average from September of 2020 through September of 2021 from local granaries that were nearest to the county seat. And I also threw in National Agricultural Statistics Services Wisconsin report, as well as the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and averaged all those. So these are a yearly average. These are not spot prices, but it's certainly within the committee's purview to change these to whatever they feel is justified within reason.
Okay. And Jay, this is pass through?
It is, yep.
So
Yep.
the county's not out any money. Okay.
I have a question, Mr. Post.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm wondering why corn is less per bushel than soybean.
Because you get more bushels per corn per acre than you do soybeans.
But you get more damage, wildlife damage out of the corn than you do the soybean. So I would think that corn per bushel should come up.
So I don't necessarily believe that the two are correlated. It depends on what type of damage you're talking about. If you're talking about bear damage to corn, there's going to be zero yield from bear damaged corn. Deer damaged corn, there's still something there to harvest. But again, that doesn't have a bearing upon what the price per bushel is for either of those commodities. Those are set by local mills. It doesn't really have
Okay,
crop
yeah,
damage to.
Go ahead.
Crop damage to those commodities doesn't really have a bearing on what the price that the mills are paying.
Okay, yeah, because I was just basing it off bear damage. 'Cause
Sure.
I know there gets a lot of damage in the corn. That's why I was asking that. So.
Yeah, so if you want to flesh out the difference between the two, when bear damages corn, there's zero yield. And so they're going to be getting paid for 100% of that damage. When a deer damages corn, there's still usually something there for them to harvest. And so then you have your damaged yield and your reference yield to figure out the difference between the two, your area damage, that generates your total loss. But as far as these prices there, they're not really related.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine.
All right. Any more questions or comments? All right, then we would need a motion to approve these, the proposed prices or add our own prices in.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, there's been a motion made. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to accept the proposed crop price proposal. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay, Jay.
Last one is for the 2022 budget for wildlife damage. Again, this is part of the pass-through money that we get back from the state. And this is what APHIS has proposed as their 2022 budget to us.
Okay. And you've reviewed it, or somebody in your group has reviewed it, and you're okay with it?
I have, and it has gone up a little bit, which is to be expected. Everything goes up, it doesn't go down anymore. And I did hear that the state was also looking at increasing their amounts of what they're going to fund out for the counties for wildlife damage as well. I didn't get a finalization if that was approved yet, but there was discussions in raising that amount. Again, though, it's still pass-through money. If there was ever a time where it wasn't pass-through money, this committee would be notified immediately.
Okay. All right, so you're recommending or saying this is.
I would
okay.
recommend approval of this.
All right, very good. We'll entertain a motion to approve the budget for Searle County.
That motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the county budget as presented. Oh, okay. No more discussion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. That's it from you, Jane.
That's it.
All right, USDA report.
I want to report that the USDA offices are all open, but by appointment only, and masks are mandated there. I sit on that committee there, and now they're also mandating that we have to have that shot, whether we have to resign or whatever. And the other thing is, now CPAP 2 deadline was yesterday. That was for winter kill for the last 3 years. That came to an end yesterday. PATH HH, which is for timber haulers and timber harvesters, that comes to the end Friday. That's the last sign up date for that. Fall crop reporting for seeding down here is November 15th. ACR county payments for wheat and barley. Rush County came out with $16.51. Sawyer County come up with $20.11 on an 85% base for wheat. The PLC rates for 2020, the same nation for 85% established base for wheat was 45 cents a bushel and barley was 20 cents. That's nationwide. Rush County had one CRP contract submitted and approved. Story County has none. The DMC payment for dairy margin was $5.25 last month for August milk. And now we're still waiting on the new contract for sign up for 2022. That's hasn't been decided yet. And that's about all I have to.
Okay. Any questions on the USDA report?
Where's that office at, the post office?
In Ladysmith.
Ladysmith?
Yeah.
And you were told that you have to be vaccinated by what date? Otherwise you get fired?
We have to be vaccinated by the 15th of November.
15 November.
Yep.
And are there any exemptions to that mandate, like religious? Or
Well, there was a list put in there if somehow, because religion was thrown in there and for medical reasons, that might be a thing, but it's got to be voted on by the county committee then.
Thanks.
Okay, any more questions, any additional USDA questions? Brian, do you have a LCO report?
Just real quick, fall time is always the busiest for LCO conservation. We have a lot of habitat enhancement projects. You know, as an example, we've got a cedar tree planting project going on in progress right now in the southern part of the reservation. We have forestry related habitat improvement programs. We're going to do a prescribed burn up by Riverside. We're completing our stocking operations for the year. We still have one pond that we need to get the extended growth walleye out of there, but so I don't have actual numbers to provide the committee yet. I should have them by next month. But I think the majority of them were stocked in big LCO. Just one other point, you know, we were talking, you guys were talking about invasive species earlier in the meeting. We worked with COLA. In fact, the tribe and COLA worked together, purchased a what they call an eco harvester. We spent a lot of time this fall removing or doing our best to remove a lot of milfoil, especially on little cooterave. For whatever reason, it's popping up there quite a bit. And then as well as big lake cooterave. So on the reservation lakes, we do have that eco harvester, and it's you know, the guys are getting a little bit better at operating it. It just takes time and training, but you know, we're trying to do our part to mitigate the spread of it as well. So that's pretty much it for right now, that off the top of my head.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Any questions on the LCO report? Okay, next item on the agenda is the 2022 budget. Do you have anything to say, or would you just answer questions, or?
Yeah, just, you know, in each of the committee meetings, we're rolling through the budgets for the departments that are under the jurisdiction of the committee in question. So Mike will kind of walk through those departments under this jurisdiction. You'll have another opportunity then. You know, this is the way the budget is set right now. So this is the administrator's budget, which will roll to the county board next Thursday. So I'll make the presentation on the full county budget next Thursday. Then we have the public hearing the week thereafter. There'll be another round of committee meetings in November, which will have an opportunity to discuss or change anything in the administrator's budget, and then the budget adoption at the county board meeting in early December. So I'll turn it over to Mike to talk about the budgets for these departments.
Okay. Lynn, I see on the agenda under the budget, there's 2 budget options there. I think they're duplicates of each other, but do you know?
Under the past one, you mean?
Yeah, there's like an option 1 and an option 2. I think they're duplicates, but I was working off option 2, assuming that was the last budget submitted.
Oh,
To put on the
the
agenda.
correction that you said?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So, yes, like Tom said, I put in your packets a detailed budget for each of the departments within your jurisdiction. My intent today is to just kind of give an overview of all of them together, but we can certainly go budget by budget if you prefer, or you have questions, please ask. Just kind of summarizing what each department did. Overall, the operating levy for this group increased about $43,000 for the 2022 budget versus what we're doing currently, the 2021 budget. There's nothing out of the ordinary in any of these budgets. There's nothing new. It's pretty much status quo in all of these budgets. The differences kind of come in with some staffing increases. There's some health insurance changes. There's employees, leaving one budget department, going to another budget. Well, all those costs go with them. And, there may have been health insurance in one department, but there's not, but now there is, and you're covering health insurance. Or people go from, they get married, and so you go from single health insurance to family health insurance. That's really what's driving the increases that these group of budgets are seeing for next year. Like I said, nothing else really changed. It's all pretty much status quo within their budgets. Certainly we can, if you have specific questions about a department, we can get into that, but there's nothing new going on.
Jay, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
You've gone over the budgets and you're okay with the budget numbers. I know you'd like more, but.
Yeah, for what we were showing here, yes, I know we had some outside discussion on whether or not there could be another potential part-time code enforcement officer moving forward. That would be something, again, we would look at being a fee-funded position, which wouldn't increase on this budget. So I'm fine with what's prepared.
Okay.
And there's nothing with that in this budget.
Right.
Pardon me?
There's nothing related to that built into
No, I
this.
understand, but
Yeah.
there was another, I think, that'd be more zoning, wouldn't it? That
It would.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, Mike.
No, that's fine. So that's kind of on operational side. The last few pages, there's some budgets in here that are just grant related. They're pass-through budgets. There's not really levy involved with them, but I put them in there so you can see them. You talked about wildlife damage. That's certainly one of them. But then towards the end is some of the capital budgets. And I just wanted to touch on, because it came up with the zoning committee discussion, the Brunette Dam project for next year. I know that the numbers aren't necessarily set yet for that particular project. However, in the budget, we have a number. That number right now is $619,000. Approximately half of that is state funded and half of it is county funded. The county's half is budgeted to be part of the borrowing that we're going to be doing here in the next month or two for next year's budget. We've had to set that amount, so I can't, unless we delay or postpone going forward with borrowing, I can't change that amount anymore. So if we end up adding to the budget because of cofferdam or something, we're going to have to revisit how we're going to fund that additional amount. And I'm not trying to say don't do it. We'll just have to find another alternative. And I'm confident we can. I'm not worried about it, but I just for your information.
Yeah.
So unless there's questions, just kind of in a nutshell, that's where we are with the budgets.
So this is for information purposes only, this budget discussion. You don't need anything from this committee?
No, it's just for the committees, so the committee's aware of the individual budgets. They have questions why something is done some way or why it's budgeted in particular, we can try and answer it.
Comments from anybody and other staff members about the budget?
There's $4,500 listed for membership dues. What sort of membership dues are?
Are you in the forestry budget?
Yeah, it's on page, well, on here it's page 34, 43.
Yeah, I assume you're looking at forestry. Forestry, they have their association dues that they pay.
Yeah, okay, it is forestry.
Yeah.
So some forestry association membership, they have to.
Yeah, there's one that's, I think it's like $8,000 and their grant picks up half of that and the county picks up half of that.
Okay.
Any more questions on the budget part? Okay, hearing none. Anybody have any ideas or for future items or anything? We talked about a couple. There's been, so you can put those on it, but any other comments, raised hands on virtual? No? All right, well, thanks, everybody. We're adjourned. There you go, Todd. Yeah.